What is up, everybody? I'm in the house today with Jordan Riz, Omi Whale. Man, this guy has like 130 million plus Omi. He's such a big force in the community. He's got his own, private groups with whales. He's got his own YouTube channel, which is phenomenal. And he's so educated and, really knows so much more about the token than I do. And today we really wanted to talk about, all things Omi, some of the major developments, and why he's still so bullish. So what's up, brother?
Hey, thanks so much for having me on, Chad. Like this show is awesome. I've been watching it a little bit more lately than I did before. There's just so many people in the VV fam now making awesome content, and I think you're right up the top there. So yeah, I'm really excited to be here.
Man, I really appreciate you being here too. And like I said to you before the stream, like, everybody that I was in contact with was like, you got to interview Jordan. He's the nicest, humblest, intelligent guy. Like, so like make sure to get him on. And then obviously I saw your channel and I saw, how much you knew about Omi. And so I was like, this has to happen, man. So this is good.
Awesome.
Yeah. So why are you still so bullish? I mean, we got people that are like, "Oh no, Vivi's separating from Omi. Omi's going to zero." Like, what's your take on
Oh
all
man,
this? And yeah.
like I've definitely felt the pressure from everyone as well. Like my brother-in-law was texting me a few days ago, like, "Dump Omi. Omi's a scam. Omi's going to zero. It's the dead token." And
Yeah.
like I'm replying back, it's okay, just relax, like it's all good. You know, the only reason the token price is down, everyone knows this, is just a lack of exchanges at the moment. And that's really it. A few more exchanges, and would be flying right now. We've got so many good things in the future that are planned for Omi and for the OUP. And yeah, I'll tell you a little background from why I got into Omi.
Yeah.
I watched I was into crypto already. I used to mine Bitcoin back in the day,
Mm.
and I used to sell it at $200, $300 for per Bitcoin, which is a bit sad now. I had friends who got into Dogecoin as well. They had millions of Dogecoin. They sold them for almost nothing, which Dogecoin got to 70 cents. So I've seen the run up before with crypto. And when I saw Omi and I saw Vivi, and I saw on I think it was BitBoy's channel, and I ended up buying Omi at maybe 007 around there.
Wow.
Just a little bit. I just put a little bit in, and I just slowly kept buying. Price kept going down. I kept buying more. That was the run where it just sort of hit that spike, and it went all the way down to 0024 around there, 0025. And I just kept buying all the way down. And I got into Vivi, and I did some of the drops, and my son absolutely loved the app. I'm like, okay, wow, kids love this. This is going to be huge. It might take some time, and I know kids can't really have accounts yet. But my son would play with the DeLorean for like hours. He loved it, especially once you could drive it as well. He'd drive it around, and he'd take videos and pictures, and just I could see the product. I could see why it's going to be so good. And they got all the big licenses, and all this stuff happened before we even had Marvel and Disney, right? That was before Marvel and Disney.
Right.
And I went pretty close to all in on Omi. I was basically all in. I had a chance to double my bag, which I didn't do, and I ended up getting roped of a different project. So we'll talk about that another time. That one. There's still there's a law dispute going and everything. I won't mention the token now. It's not really important, and it's dead anyway at the moment. But yeah, I went all in on Omi, and that was right before Disney announced, and then they announced it, and the token went up, and I was like, "Told you so" to everyone. And we're at that point again now where everything's down, just before hopefully some big news happens.
Right. And
Yeah,
we both agreed that we saw David use red cap on his latest
yes,
interview.
yeah, that really excited me seeing him wearing that red cap, and he did a shout out to Omi homies. I did a little quick video about that, and I just want to show them that David hears us. He knows what's going on. He really likes he really likes the community. He can't talk too much about the token because he doesn't want to get in trouble. He doesn't want to cause problems with securities and all that sort of stuff. But I look forward to them integrating Omi into VV, and I think that's coming next. And so yeah, you got the roadmap there. You can see weight, drop list, crypto to gem. Crypto to gem is already happening now, right?
Yeah, we're seeing that, right? Yeah, people are
Yeah.
getting it now. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I've got the whitelist for crypto to gem. I haven't tried it out yet. If it's Omi to gem, maybe I'll try it out already. But yeah, it's it's definitely. I don't think they can't really veer off this roadmap, right? If they were to drop Omi, that would kill their whole community. That would just destroy the project.
Dude,
And
that's what I mean.
they'd suddenly have about 5 to 10,000 haters instead of, there's a few fudders now. There's maybe a couple handfuls.
Yeah.
They're pretty noisy. But
Yeah.
I think for the most part, most people are waiting very calmly and quietly, and there's not too many people dumping. The price is quite stable at the moment, around was it 0008? I think that's about the
Yeah,
low.
I agree. It seems to have not, gone down further than that. And it seems like, like you said, there's still enough people in the project where, and it's not only just Omi, like it's across the board in every freaking crypto project, all of like really good projects that I was in as well, that like, a lot of them I did pull out at the right time. But it's like, now you're seeing that it's not just like, unique to like, a Comey, right? And Vivi. So I think that's interesting, right? And like, Jordan, one thing like a lot of my viewers here, a lot of them are like Vivi people, right? So like they're really into the NFTs. And even myself included, like I'm not really understanding, I guess, what like the roadmap is for like I guess like Omi. Like why would I want to stake 50,000, and like what are all these different benefits that everybody are so excited about with Omi? Like what are the potential there for that?
So if you believe in the Viviverse as well, that's one of the big aspects with the staking is you'll be able to buy land in the Viviverse.
Right.
So you'll get these, I think it was the golden tickets that will give you the ability to buy land in the Viviverse. So that's one of the features.
And that's huge, right? I mean, that alone, having land is like, everybody talks about how dirt is the most important, just like you see with real estate in the real world, right? So
that's right.
Yeah.
Well, imagine if there's a Disneyland. I mean, I don't know if there is, but imagine if there's a Disneyland, or maybe I don't know, something else like the Labbits or something that you can get a plot right next to it, right? And it's going to have a heap of foot traffic potentially, and we haven't seen any metaverses do super well so far. But we also haven't seen any metaverses with big IPs, and we've already got thousands of dedicated fans, but Disney haven't advertised us, like not really. Imagine if Disney put out, some cool deal with their Disney Plus users, and they mention VV, and you can, get a free NFT or a cheap one or whatever it is. There's so many ways that Disney could promote us, and we'd suddenly be on like 100 million, mobiles. Like it's
yeah, people forget that like it just takes one tweet to get us back into like the Disney golden moments era, right? So it's like
yeah, for sure, it really does. But I think they know that they have to make sure the app is fully robust, and they're trying to get all the features out before that happens. So I think that's one of the major delays as well. Is just they want to make sure they're building, right? I have a Tesla, right? I ordered a Tesla. It took me about 9 months to get my Tesla.
Wow.
From when I ordered it, and I know some people have ordered the Cybertruck, like Randy Chavez. He's got a Cybertruck on order, and they've delayed that for years and years. And that's Tesla, one of the biggest companies in the world. Over $1 trillion market cap, I think. At least it hit over $1 trillion. I don't know if it is right at this moment, but it's anything technology takes time. And I understand that because I've developed apps before. I've built hundreds of websites. I'm a big tech guy.
Wow.
I'm not like on Kay's level of programming, but I do understand a lot of the background of it and a lot of the technicalities. I just I don't know the actual programming itself. I'm more of like a manager type thing when I do app development.
Super interesting, Jordan. And like, man, these bronze tickets, like, okay, so people are like, oh, well, you can use them to get like a drop. Like you can essentially, if you got enough points, you can just like, oh, let's just say Mario's coming out and there's like a blind box. And my thing is like, am I going to be able to allocate, or am I going to be able to like get the secret rare of the Mario like in that blind box, or do I just get like whitelisted to that drop? Do you know what I'm trying to say? Or do you know that?
Yeah, I do. I understand the question.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure on the answer yet. I think they haven't clarified what we'll get. We definitely will get part of the drop. I don't know if you'll be able to use your bronze tickets to go for just a secret rare, or if you'll just be going for the drop in general. I think you should be able to actually aim for one specific collectible. I guess it just depends if it's a blind box drop or if it's a specific one. They changed that last Platinum Moments. They changed it from a blind box to just pick the collectible.
Yeah.
So if it's pick the collectible, I think you could just associate bronze tickets to it, and so
wow,
that'd be awesome.
I mean, yeah. I mean, like I would almost risk it just to the chance of like a Charizard in 3 years. You know what I'm trying to say? Like,
Yeah. So we discussed this, I think, on the Round the Comiiverse a few times. That most of us that are big into VV and big into some of the different drops, we like for me it'd be Fast and Furious. I would put in $20, $100, maybe even $200, depending on what the drop is for like some super secret rare GTR Skyline or something like that. Like it depends what you're really into, but everyone likes a little bit of gambling, right? It's just sort of what we do in this society, is we like to gamble. A lot of degens, right? Especially if you're into crypto, which is most of the VB crowd at the moment.
yeah.
And just risking $5 or $10, a few times a year ends up that you've just put $100 to $200 into burning Omi. And if everybody does that, and we have hundreds of thousands of users, then we're going to be burning millions of dollars of Omi each year. So the supply will definitely start to dwindle down. Like I did a whole video just on how bronze tickets alone could be the major mechanism to burn like 50% of the supply of Omi over the next few years.
Wow.
Once we get it going.
Right. And so what is like that user base that like is needed to see like significant burns per year where like, because I think what is it, the original supply was like 750 billion or something, right?
Yeah, so what they actually have now is they're not counting anything other than the circulating supply, because the reserve oil and everything's about to be retired. It basically is. It's not really running anymore. So the biggest burn in history happened very quietly. It's just they're no longer using any of those old tokens. It's going to be just the tokens in the circulating supply, which is about 310 billion. And I believe Ecomi also said they're going to be burning, I think it was either around 8 billion Omi tokens for the buyback fund. So they're going to use the money from the buyback fund, or what it's worth equivalent, to burn that in Omi for the development fund, which is part of the circulating supply. So the real circulating supply is closer to 305 billion, around that. So that's all you really have to worry about, is the 305 billion Omi tokens. So that's the real number that you have to look at.
Yeah.
And so you can just say 300 billion to make it a little bit easier in mathematics. And if we burn, it really depends on the price, because as the price goes up, it's harder to burn Omi, right? Because you buy a lot less Omi with the same equivalent of money. But if the users grow at the same pace as the Omi price goes up, that means we'd be burning the same sort of rate of Omi over time. And if it went up far, if Omi stayed down for a little while and we started burning Omi quite quickly, we could easily lose 50% of the supply of Omi over the next few years. And even if it takes longer, like it once people understand the mechanisms and they can see it burning and actually doing something. You saw the Dogecoin run up with
oh yeah, of course. Just very jealous of that whole run up.
Oh man, it was crazy. It was pretty crazy. I actually had a whole bunch of Doge too, and I did hold it for a little while, but then I sold it too early.
Wow,
I think I sold it. I bought it before it hit 1 cent, and I sold it around 3 or 4 cents, around that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had friends who had millions of Dogecoin. They sold it before it even hit 1 cent. So they would be literally millionaires now with Dogecoins they had. But yeah, it's difficult to time these things, and that's why it's usually the time in the market, not timing the market, that does well. Some people are good at timing the market, but for every one person who's good at timing the market, there's like 20 people that just lost most of their life savings by trying to time it.
Right. That's the issue, right? Is like even for me, I'm like, if only I bought 100 Todds when they were at the store and then sold them all at exactly the all-time high. But then when you start doing the math, you're like, oh, well, I would have to sell on the way up and on the way down, plus the all-time high. And then me just selling all those Todds would have already decreased, you know what I mean? The supply. Like, so it's like, you know what I'm trying to say? You can put up the mathematical equation being like, oh, what if I did this? What if I did that? But realistically, most people are making like a 3 to 4x gain is an amazing gain, right?
Yeah,
compared to the traditional stock market. So I feel like, if you're in the green, that's what really matters.
That's right. Yeah, like last year, Randy and I both hit over $1 million in our Omi portfolios. And, neither of us sold. Diamond hands. But we both should have sold at least a percentage, right? Like, So I'm definitely learning to take more profit next time it goes up. But I won't remove more than probably 10% when it gets to around 1 cent. And, every cent that goes up, I might take a little bit more and slowly coming out of it to make sure I've got profit to, do things with, because you don't want to just have a ton of money sitting there in crypto. You want to actually do something with that money.
Correct. Like you said, that's the point of it, right? Is to make money to use it. But it's difficult because you're like, oh, I'm trying to maximize my ROI. And if I don't take anything, then that means just more money for me later. So I get the, the aspect of like holding on and like you said, diamond hands, right? But what I find interesting, right, is like, not a lot of people are that bullish right now. Like I'm kind of finding like some people are saying that that they're just not seeing a lot of progress. Like there's not enough updates going on to make them feel like secure about like purchasing more. But with your experience in like these, bear and bull markets, like is this a pretty typical cycle, or would you say this is like more bearish than usually people are, or
this reminds me of Cardano when it was around 3 cents.
yeah.
I was watching it then. I didn't buy any then, but around 3 cents, and there was a lot of FUD. And then it jumped up to like $1.30 or something like that. It jumped up really high, really fast, right? And the community and the way they're talking about, the FUD talk, it's very, very, very similar to that. And I know other people have compared Cardano to Omi in the current sort of climate. It's like they're building, but it looks like nothing's happening, and the background stuff is happening. As soon as things do happen, the price will just explode. It's sort of building that that sort of slow momentum.
Right.
But yeah, it's definitely underwhelming for the delivery of everything so far.
Yeah.
But yeah, in tech, it's always sort of like that. Like I got into Tesla stock and I made $120,000 on Tesla stock. So because I saw the future of Tesla, but I didn't get in early enough. So I made $120,000, which is great. But I actually wanted to buy it a lot earlier, but I didn't. I would have made $1 million more with Tesla stock.
Wow, man, this is so crazy. And like you said too, like with going back to Omi, like it's such a good investment because I just keep thinking too that it compounds, right? Like you're getting the burning aspect, plus then you're getting like, potentially more interest. So there's like a few different areas working for you. Then you have the allocation, the staking, and like what does that staking tier look like? We have like it says like OUP staking, but I know that there's like tier 1, tier 2, and I was like interested in the allocation because it seemed like the top tier was like 50,000, I guess the equivalent of like USDT, right? Is that right?
Yeah, so I put enough Omi in the VV app for that, but the price kept going down, so I don't have enough now for the top tier. I'd have to put some more in, but as it goes back up again, it should be plenty.
Yeah, exactly. Interesting.
Yeah, like it's gonna be wild when everything's in place. Like if 1 year from now, absolutely everything or close to everything is up and running for OUP. Like if like I don't know, 50-60% of these circles are finished.
Yeah,
it's going to be a wild ride for the next crypto run.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
So do you have other cryptocurrencies?
I do. Yeah. So I'm pretty diversified, but more in the big stuff. So like I'm really obviously into like, ETH, Cardano, Bitcoin, Polygon. I'm even like back in the day I was so into Zilliqa because I really thought it was gonna be like a new
I remember Zill. Yeah.
Yeah, but I really like
ZIL, right? The ticker ZIL.
Yeah, I will. The issue was I got really interested in this one guy on Reddit that was just like so articulate the way he was like, putting everything out, saying like we should see it, like, you just get it, and then you start loving it, and so I got big into that, and then obviously put some money into Omi, and then obviously other NFTs as well. So pretty well diversified, but I don't know. I just find like for me, like holding on through this bear market is difficult. Like I really tried to pay attention to the market swings as well. And unlike you, I think I have a lot more financial pressures as being like kind of like a new home buyer and stuff. So I feel like, I would almost have to sell sometimes because this is more like the play money rather than it being like something that's like I'm actually like using to get, more accumulate more wealth. It was more like, hey, this is my gambling opportunity. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Look,
Yeah.
I'm pretty all in. Like I actually remortgaged a house twice so far to buy Omi. So that probably sounds insane to some people. And I'm feeling the pressure from it now because the interest rates, everything's so high that my mortgage has gone up over $1,000 over the last 12 months,
Right.
which is, it's not pleasant. Cash flow wise, I'm pretty good because I run a couple of different businesses. So I am lucky in that aspect. I've set myself up fairly well, but I'm definitely not rolling in money at the moment. And because I put so much into Omi, I kept putting more and more into Omi and other cryptos as well. I just don't have like spare cash on the side. So I would have to sell something if I need to, but I don't at the moment. I can just sort of make it month by month and hodl my crypto for now.
Yeah.
But
But it
yeah,
is
it's
interesting, right? Because even like I've had a lot of friends that said that, you know, if Bitcoin like went under 20,000, they're like they would be so happy going to their bank and taking out a loan, or like you said, taking out an equity line of credit, like, you know, because at that point, like most people would presume in the next bull market, like you're gonna see, you know, a major increase in that number. And I mean, if it, you know, like we look at the history of the last like, you know, 3 cycles, and it's like just, you know, constantly it goes down, but it just like is at a higher low and then it goes to a higher high. So I mean, it's, you know, and there's more people that are adopting crypto despite what the mainstream media wants to do. I mean, you've seen all the FUD that they try to put out, but they're not biting. Like people just keep putting more money into crypto, man.
well, mate, I think they're flooding it so they can buy crypto quietly in the background. I think that's
Yeah,
what's happening.
exactly.
And like when the banks were collapsing, that was actually interesting for me because I was just like, wow, actually, I'm pretty safe here. Everything I've got is in crypto. Like the banks can all fail as long as some other banks, you know, turn up eventually, and I can, if I need to, I could cash it out to cash. But crypto is becoming safer than dollars, right? And that's a bit of a shift.
And I'm presuming everything in your case is like all on cold storage, right? Like for
Yeah,
the
I cold storage most of it. Like I said, I got some of
yeah,
the VV app. And I
yeah.
don't know how safe that is. Like the 2FA is you know just does email, and email is sometimes you know not that difficult to hack.
Hmm.
But you know if you have 2FA on your email as well, and then there's 2FA2 email, so it's sort of like 4FA, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it seems like you said, it seems like it's more secure now, and there's that centralization aspect. So if anything happened, I'd be like, hey, VV support, like what happened here? You know?
Oh yeah, have you put Omi in and out of the VV app?
I have. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty tricky, and it has to like sit in this like escrow thing for a little while where it sits there.
It freaked me out, to be honest, the first time I did it.
It well,
Yeah,
actually, when I did it, I was moving like 20 or 30 million out, and I
yeah.
freaked out because the contract addresses were all different. So I thought
Mm.
I'd like sent it to the wrong place or something, and it took a while for the ETH transaction to come through. So I'm like, okay, I've just lost 20 million OMI or whatever it was. And I was freaking out for like maybe 5 minutes, and then it just turned up, and it's like, okay, it's here. But like, yeah, it's definitely. They need to work on that a little bit. I have heard they've talked about making it easier to get in and out of layer 1 and 2
Yeah,
OMI. So on IMX, so it'd be interesting if they do something with that and make it a little bit easier over time.
I agree. Like I really had to go through Reese's instructions like 3 times over just just to feel comfortable with the whole process, you know? So
Yeah,
but like Jordan, looking at this map too, man, like there's some stuff here that I'm looking at, like, you know, like Omi 2 accessory. Like what are we looking at there? Is that like meaning that like you can buy accessories within like the VB verse or something like that? Or like what is
that's
that?
exactly right. Yeah, it's supposed to be
Yeah.
that they originally said this, and I'm not sure if they're going to take it back it, but basically. All accessories that were not branded were going to be bought with OMI inside the Vverse, and 100% of that will burn OMI from the circulating supply.
Wow.
So I'm hoping they stick with that because that could be absolutely massive. If this Vverse works well and we get thousands of daily users, then we could be burning a ton of OMI from that as well. So between all the different burning mechanisms and between the staking, and you know, there's a lot of long-term hodlers. You know, it wouldn't take a lot for OMI to run up really high. A lot of people believe it could hit 5 to 10 cents in the next run if we get some big exchanges, which we definitely need. So yeah, what's your take on the delays?
Yeah, so that's interesting, man. So I think like, you know, going back to what you said earlier about like, you know, Tesla as an example with the Cybertruck, and like, you know, a lot of people think it's like nefarious. Like they're like, oh, they basically said that like there was going to be interoperability and there were going to be major exchanges as a way to lure people in to like essentially make more money for the interim, and then like, you know, rug everybody in the bear market. And I'm like, yeah, this is getting silly, because to me, you know, they're representing some of the biggest brands in the entire world, first of all, you
Yeah,
know. So like right away, like Disney wouldn't take that chance for their name to be butchered, nor would like Marvel, Star Wars, DC, like etc. Like there's so many people riding alongside these guys, and I also think that like there was just a lot more like that were unforeseen challenges. Like I think they grew a lot quicker than they expected. Remember, even in their white paper, they said like they were like looking for 60,000 users, I think, at the end of year 1 or something like, or 2, and it just like, you know, blew past that. And so I think like it was like a catch-up thing where they had to satisfy their licensors with like all the drop mechanics, and then also had to satisfy the community, and then also work on new things. And they probably only had maybe like 10% allocated to new projects, you know, or like, you know, MCP getting all the other stuff done. And so I think they just got into a system where they're like, you know, everyone was happy, right? Because it was the bull market, and they're like, okay, well, like let's maybe, you know, just wait on this, or maybe there's some, you know, challenges we didn't foresee, and but it's not maybe the end of the world right now because of X, Y, and Z. And then I think it eventually just caught up with them, where now it's like, okay, now we need to see the MCP, we need to see this, we need to see that, right?
Yeah,
How
and
about
I
you?
know most people that have heard about Mitch as the new sort of like manager overall. He's been doing a really good job, and we can see that by MCP starting to roll out now.
Yeah,
OUP, so not OUP, the crypto to gems is starting to happen. I've got the whitelist for that one,
nice.
but I don't have the whitelist for the MCP yet, so I'm waiting for that. I've never really talked about my VV collection, but I've got about it's about 200 collectibles and comics sort of
Nice.
between them both. Yeah, and I had like 15 or 20 sets or something. So I've got a little collection.
That's awesome, man. That's not a little collection. I mean, I think we're jaded because a lot of the bigger whales in here have like, you know,
Yeah,
200 plus sets and like 10,000 collectibles, but that's significant. And like, you know, the thing is that a lot of people are like, and I've even talked to Randy about this. A lot of people are just buying cheap things to like get their like numbers up. But like, I don't know if those are all
that's Randy.
AF15.
That's Randy doing that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I don't blame him. I think that's pretty cool. But
Right.
it's like this is where it's going to get interesting, right? And I think like one thing I keep saying about MCP, which I think is so obvious, is that a lot of these like things that are like one set, like that new stamp that came out. I forget what it was, like the I forget like the name, but it was like the female war hero, right? And it was like $6, right, to buy it, and you complete a set, and it's like that's going to be MCP points. And so like now I feel like once MCP actually starts rolling out, which it seems like it's doing now, or at least the beta aspect, I'm like more and more people are going to go buy those cheap sets up, which is going to elevate the price, you know?
Yeah, no, that's it's. I think we're going to come into. I think everything's going to happen at a really good time if they can get some exchanges out this year and roll most of the OUP and all MCP and all those things out by next year. Then and the bull run starts, sort of after the Bitcoin halving around April next year, maybe even a little bit before that. There's usually a bit of anticipation before it as well.
Right.
So the timing could work out extremely well for VV and OMI. And we could see something that we haven't seen before, and the market might become even crazier than it was last year. You were obviously in the VV during January last year when it was just going nuts.
Oh, buddy. Yeah.
It was crazy.
It's interesting because, you know, it's such an interesting time because, you know, you have these assets. Like I had a Secret of Spider-Man at the time that hit over 100,000. You know, I don't know how many of those were sales, mind you. And I also think I always say that there's the perfect recipe because it was like a bull market. There was a lot of bots. There was no cash out, and there was dirty gems. So like
Yeah.
all those things catapulted these prices to things that weren't potentially realistic at that time. But nonetheless, you know,
Yeah.
you could have sold it for 100,000 gems. And it's funny because when they reached those prices, I was like, oh, this makes sense. Like this is what I thought they could be. But you know, I didn't really, you know, capitalize on that perfect moment.
Same.
Yeah.
Well, even my small portfolio hit around $80,000 worth. What did yours get to? Did you see? Did
I
you
was in the
calculate?
hundreds of thousands for sure. I didn't hit like a
Nice.
million or anything, but yeah,
Yeah.
definitely up there. But it was just interesting because the other thing is like at that point too, if you did sell, you'd be selling in gems,
Yeah.
and then a lot of people weren't that confident that we were going to get the cash out. And then on
Yeah.
top of that, would it be international? So that was my concern. I was like, you know, it's probably just going to go to the United States or New Zealand. I was like, I bet you like Canada might be another year from there. So then you knew that you had to also come up with the risk to trade it off in the black market, going through an escrow, or you'd have to, you know what I mean? All those things too. So that played on your mind too. It wasn't just like, oh, this is easy, I'm going to sell it and cash it out.
Yeah.
So that was the other prohibitor for me. Yeah.
Yeah. That's really true.
Yeah. It was just funny, man. It was it was a good time, but you know, I do think like now that we're kind of seeing like a lot more saturation in the market, and we're seeing like, you know, even like the Disney 100 like platinum moments, right? And then like, you know, I think it was Clever Jerk, one of the whales that I think you and I both know pretty well, was like, you know, what if they have sapphire moments or something next, right? So we just need to be aware of like the saturation coming forward, and that's why I think like, you know, FA and then scarcity, popularity, and historical significance, like that kind of, you know, I guess like I was gonna say duo, but it'd be you know times two of a duo, is really what I'm looking at. Plus then the utility component, because we're seeing all these other projects and we're seeing like gamification now, and like, you know, like imagine when like all these big games like Zynga and Rockstar start coming in and using these NFTs. Well, then now like we're going to be using a collectible that's stagnant or has like a one thing animation competing with those NFTs that are like running around in friggin' games and potentially are interoperable between other games, right? So it's like that's where it's like I also think that like VV's got to stay ahead of the curve to ensure that like everything's still, I guess, representative at that point too.
Yeah, that's true. Do you play any video games?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I've started playing Hogwarts Legacy, but I was like, it's good. But it like Grand Theft Auto is like probably like, a typical one, Call of Duty, like all that stuff. Yeah.
Do you play Fortnite at all?
I tried it a few times. It was just like too much of a rabbit hole to go down to, but do you play it a lot?
It's a funny game, isn't it? Yeah. But they have a lot of skins. So I play very occasionally. And I've got quite a few different skins in it. Like I've got the Dragon Ball Z skin, sort of, like Goku over here. And it's pretty cool. It's pretty fun to be able to run around as your favorite character. So if we do that in the Viverse, I think that could really help.
So this is so interesting because this is what I'm hoping for. So like I've got like the Miles Morales, right? Like the secret rare. And I'm like, okay, does that mean that this is like Marvel might actually take that character and be like, okay, whoever owns that NFT may have then a branch of all these connections into gaming, into like events, into like discounts, and like, you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden now, like I've got, like you said, I've got that Miles Morales skin in a future game that comes out on PS5 or like a web game, right? Through Marvel as an example, in like 5 years from now. Or does it just die with that Miles Morales? And I'm hoping that they see like a bigger future and an interconnectedness between what they're dropping and not just like, a cash grab, for lack of a better word.
That's right. Yeah, well, IMX is doing a lot of really good things with Web3 gaming. And it really would not be hard at all for VV NFTs to be interoperable with at least with IMX and all their different games. So, if IMX ends up being like the main layer 2 solution for Web3 games, we could have 20 or 30 really good games on there that you could then got hit my microphone. You could move your NFTs potentially over to them just for the games, or like even have it connected. It stays in your VV app, but you can use it in those other games. It's like a connector app type thing, or a connector wallet.
Right. So is that the most plausible then? Because like, interoperability to take one asset to put it in another, it's too difficult, right? But like you said, just spawning or like having some kind of code that you use to like then get onto another
it's
app.
connected. It's connected to your VV account. So I think that would make a lot more sense than having to move the NFT over all the time would be a pain in the bum.
Yeah.
Between all different games and things. I think just being able to use it would make sense. You've bought it, you own it, it's in VV, but you can connect to it. A connector would make a lot more sense to me.
So I guess on that same point, like, with like you being like kind of like a pretty heavy like Web3 guy, like what does that interoperability component mean to you? Because like if they're staying on like the VV app and then but you can spawn things other places, like is that an issue, or do you expect interoperability as time goes on and you just think it's early, or like what's
I think we'll get it to some degree. It would be cool. Yeah. I mean, at the lowest degree, it would be cool if you could just move it around the IMX sort of area. So it'd be like the IMX marketplace. They've got a few other places that will use. I think GameStop's marketplace uses IMX as well. So if you could move, I think OpenSea is integrating with IMX as well, I believe. So if you could use your VV NFTs and move them between some of these other marketplaces, even if it's just like 4 or 5 big marketplaces, that would still give you the ability to sell it in other places, and you'd still like own it, and you can have it in a wallet and all these different things that would make it sort of interoperable, but not necessarily layer 1 Ethereum.
Yes.
That would be like the ultimate for it. But then, there's no recourse on that. If it stays in IMX, they can always sort of recover it. So there's always a pro and a con for everything, right? There's a give and a take.
Right. And I guess that's where people have to be comfortable in what their, I guess like what their bandwidth is for these assets, because I think like some people are like, oh, I need this layer 1, but it's like at the same time, like these are massive brands. Like this is Disney we're talking about here. Like I just don't see, like I said this before, but I can't imagine what like the worldwide viewpoint would be if like 50 partner statues got stolen from like Dr. P's wallet and just like somebody just like put them in cold storage and they were never to be recovered again. Like what that would mean for Disney, or like what I'm trying to say, like I don't know, right? Like so it's like things like that I question, and there's still so much that people don't really understand, like even for me, like about all these different, intricate components. And so it's like nice to see somebody like yourself that knows a lot about this stuff, that's still so secure and not concerned. Like, I mean, I'm sure you have like, you're critical of VV, I'm sure, and Akomi, but I'm saying that you're still like optimistic and you feel like they're making the right moves, right?
Yeah. I'm always very optimistic, to my peril sometimes, like when I
Yeah.
don't sell with profit. But I've done pretty well. My track record's fairly good. I did get rugged on one project, which I think I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
It might have been before we were talking.
No, you
live.
said that. Yeah. Do you want to share more about that, or you say you wanted to leave
Yes,
that out of it, right?
it was a project that was called C-Swap, and it's like it's with this company that's called Card Starter. It was a crypto project that helped Cardano projects like launch. So it's like a launcher called Card Starter, and then they offer this way that you could basically hold liquidity for them, and they'll give you like mining, but like give you basically tokens towards their DEX they're going to build, like a decentralized exchange. And they were going to build their own, so it was going to be like a C-Swap DEX or something. And then they ended up partnering with Sunday Swap. Have you heard of Sunday
I
Swap?
have. Yeah.
It's like one of the biggest exchanges on the Cardano ecosystem.
Yeah.
So they partnered with them, and so we're supposed to get Sunday Swap tokens. And like 2 days before the launch, Sunday Swap said nope, they're not getting any tokens. But Card Starter or C-Swap, they didn't tell us straight away. So we only found out like as Sunday Swap launched, we found out we're not getting any tokens, and so they sued them like it was not fair. And the Card Starter community and people and everything, that like the actual CEO or whatever, he lent money to Sunday Swap so they could actually launch their DEX, right? He lent money to them. I think it was pretty significant, like $150,000 or something. And they actually they helped them, they guided them. They brought a huge community from the Card Starter community over to Sunday Swap to help launch everything, right? And they just pulled the plug at last second. They got greedy, and the project, as soon as we realized that we were rugged, you should see the Sunday Swap price just went like this and just dropped. So like they shot themselves in the foot so bad, and so. They're being sued still. I think it's going through court. I don't think I'll ever get anything out of it. But yeah, I lost $100,000 with that one.
Wow.
So that's my biggest loss. Yeah.
You don't seem like you're sweating that much, which means that you've made a lot more in the green. So like I feel like just on their
I made more than that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I could tell, and I think like this is a part of it, right? It's like risk it to get that biscuit, and it's like if you want to be going into like Microsoft stock and Apple stock, well, great, you might see a 7% return in the next 3 years. Like I'm trying to say.
That's
so
right.
Like,
yeah, this is how I look at it. Like S&P 500 is like 7 to 9% return over each year. So even for us to get 100% return, which is basically guaranteed at this price. Not financial advice.
Yeah.
But like at OMI being 0008, right? It takes almost nothing for it to double. And that would be 100% gain. And if you want to take out profits, then that's cool. But that would be like 12 years, 13 years in the stock market if you're doing index funds, right? So you've just saved 13 years. And that's more than likely it's going to do a 10x in the next few months. So
yeah, it's so crazy, right, that you say that, because like even some of these prices, like I remember even like Todd, starting off at $79 and going to 14,500 within a year. And I'm sitting there going like, man, like you would never see a return like that anywhere else. And like this is where it's funny, because now people are so mad at VV, right? Even though they weren't responsible for the secondary action, market action. And you know what I'm trying to say? Like they priced Wald at $333. They priced Todd at $80, and people took them to those prices. And then now, Todd's at still what is it, like a 9x? Lambo SR is still at like whatever, a 10x. And people are like, this is crazy. Like VV's dying. And it's like, well, like, wait a second. This does seem realistic. Like, again, I'm not saying that like I wasn't, like those prices made sense to me at the time. And I do feel like, yeah, it has come down significantly. I'm just saying that, it's not like VV was influencing that in some sense. So some people say they will, because they were saying like, oh, we're going to have interruptibility, we're going to do all these things. But I would say like, people paid that price for it because they believed in it,
Yeah, so I think a lot of the people that are complaining and they have problems with VV and OMI, and I think they're very, very new to the space in general.
Right.
They maybe only been in it a couple of years. And, I've been mining Bitcoin since I think 2014, 2015, I was mining it. Just on graphics cards. We had 2 or 3 different graphics cards in SLI, which is a type of connection for the board. And so I was mining Bitcoin. I was selling them for $200 or $300. It was a bit like back then. I was in my early 20s, and that was a lot of money. So, but if I'd held on to those Bitcoins that I mined, I don't know how much money I'd have now, but it would be a lot more. And I was also trading Ethereum at $30. So,
Wow.
what's Ethereum now? Like 2,000?
Yeah. But this is the thing, like I love how you're kind of being realistic about this too, right? And it is interesting how you said like, time in the market beats timing the market. And I think like that's a perfect case of that. If like, you just held all that stuff, who knows? But at the same time, like there's other things that if you held, it would have went to zero, right? And I think that's like the
Yeah.
other component of this too. But like what I find interesting there is like a lot of people with your experience tend to be a lot less I guess like not as influenced as in these times, right? A lot of people are kind of really bearish, and they've bought all in the high, and now they're selling it on like an all-time low, and they feel like confident about that. But I think it was Danny DeBull said it was perfectly. He's like, you're actually it's way less risky to buy now than it was when things were going parabolic, right?
Yeah. So I'm trying to sell my Amazon brand right now. I'm looking to exit maybe around $300,000.
Wow.
And so I'll put a large amount of that potentially into Omi if the price stays here. So if you see a large green candle, it might be mine. But I just had a meeting a few days ago, and we'll see what happens if I can sell the brand in the next month or so. If the price is still low, I'll be getting some more Omi. If not, I'll diversify around a few other projects. And I'm still very bullish on Omi. It's still early days, right? We always say it's very cliche. We say it's what do we say? It's early.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Like it's like I get you. Like it's
Good.
I know, but it is early days, bro. Like it seems like we repeat it. We're like, oh, we're the next internet, we're the next Amazon, but it's like it's gonna take the world to wake up before we see that market action back here, right? So it's like you're like, even with these NFTs, we're like anticipating like augmented reality in the next 5 years, but like, hey, that's not here right now. Nobody really cares about it right now or understands digital ownership, but they will once the world goes that way and once we're operating in metaverses and doing our 9 to 5s there, right?
That's right. Have you heard about the new Apple glasses coming out?
Yeah. So when is that? I swear that got delayed.
I think around June they're going to be releasing their new Apple glasses. I think they're around $3,000 each. They're not cheap.
Wow.
Right, but it's going to have like I don't know what they look like, but they're going to be like augmented reality, so you can walk around with them. You're not going to bump into things, right? You'll be able to see, see augmented reality vision through glasses that you can still see the world around you. So it should be like, I'm sure the quality is going to be really high since it is Apple.
Yeah.
I know I think the developers sort of were pushed a little to make sure they release it and just push it out because they've been delaying, and they're just going to get it out there. Even if it's not perfect, Apple's pretty good at innovating. Like if you look at the first iPhone, it wasn't that great. Like the very first iPhone was very basic, right?
But what's great about Apple is their design quality. Like that's to me where like they're so much better than everything else, is that like even if they have limited functionality, like their interface is so much more user friendly and clean, and like and that's kind of what like Vivi reminds me of too. Like when I first saw the app, like Apple did come in my head in terms of like the cleanness and the branding and the way that it was like, I don't know, just the way that everything was like laid out, minus the search bar. But like I would just felt like, okay, this kind of like aligns, right? And with augmented reality though, like I don't think people like really can grasp what that means. And like I'm most excited about augmented reality with LiDAR technology and like having friends come into my house and you could like line up your collection of things, right? And when they're flexing like a poster that they got or like just a painting from like HomeSense, we're gonna be having like these crazy assets, like being like, oh yeah, this is the first ever Marvel comic, there's only 600 of these in the world, you know what I'm trying to say? And here it is on my desk, and they could pull it up, they could read it, it's not going to get damaged. Like that's to me where like then people are going to start figuring it out and being like, oh, and then you can come over and change a setting instantly, right? Like all of a sudden like my house is full of comics and now I'm showing off my collectibles in an instant, going to setting 2, and it's like all the technology and everything's still in place. And like Halloween parties, like that's kind of where I see it. But I don't think the world's caught up. Like they don't understand that that's the future.
If every person I've shown Vivi the app and how you can just place like a Batman down on the ground,
Yeah,
like they lose their mind. Like there's almost never been a reaction where they're like, oh, that's cool. They're always like, oh, wow, what's that? How does that work? And like, it always seems to blow minds. And like, so I know we're definitely still early because people just don't understand the technology yet and how it's going to affect everyone. But if these glasses come out and they're even half decent, and maybe they work with the Viviverse or the Vivi app, then you can start placing things down and still walk around and everything with it. Like it's going to really shine a light on Vivi, I think. Wow. I think it'll definitely help. And I do know that Vivi have been in talks with Apple before as well. So I know that's happened. I don't know if you're aware of that.
I've heard a few things. Do you know anything other than just that?
I don't know anything too spicy.
Yeah, that's kind of what I've heard too. Like I've heard there's been some discussions, but like you said, I don't know the extent of those discussions. But like Jordan, one thing I love, man, is just seeing somebody like you like making these huge investments, not just in Omi, but like in all these different things. And I'm like, okay, so clearly, like if I'm not wrong, you've accumulated in the bear markets and then sold in the bull markets, or do you kind of play it both like that, or would you say now is the the best time if you're courageous and confident and I guess convicted enough to put money in and do what you're doing now? Like, is that when you make most money in your opinion? And like
so I did like I said, I was mining Bitcoins and stuff, and I did sell a lot of them back then in that bull market, whatever. It was very low compared to what it is now. And I accidentally kept some Bitcoin on like my phone. I had like the app and it had 0.12 Bitcoin, and this is about 2017, and they had that giant run up. So I sold at the very peak there. I hit like Bitcoin hit 17,000. I sold right then, and I made like $1,200 or whatever it was just from this tiny amount of Bitcoin that was left. So, but I didn't really buy a lot in the bear market until this new bear market. I sort of not true. I bought Bitcoin just before the last run. I think it was 2019, 2020. It was 2020 the big run up. Was it 20? Yeah, 2020. Right. I bought Bitcoin at about $6,000 to $10,000 around there.
Wow.
I bought a few of them, but I did sell them when they were high, but I then recycled and bought other cryptocurrencies with that instead of just keeping some of it as profit. So, and in fact, I actually converted a lot of it over for Omi. That's one of the reasons I got so much Omi was I had 6 Bitcoins that I basically turned all into Omi. So, so this current bear market now, I'm definitely grabbing a lot of other cryptocurrencies as well as Omi, just a few thousand here and there, just to add some smaller coins that have tiny market caps, under 10 million market cap, because they have the potential to easily do 10x, 100x with no problems, right? As long as the bull market goes well again, like it did last time.
Right. And like, would you say like more people are like into like kind of narrative buying, like, oh, okay, like AI is the hot topic, let's put all our money into like even these small cap coins, and like you said, even if you get a 3x out of it, right? But like, you could hit the next Shiba Inu with only $2,000 invested and you're at like a few mil, right? So
yeah, they a lot of the AI tokens already exploded. I don't know if it's too late on the AI ones or if they're going to keep running. I guess it depends on each project. But I put some money into IMX, just did a little bit of a swing trade, and it had that big peak recently, and so I made some spare cash for that, and I put that into some other cryptocurrencies. But for the most part, like 90% of my money is still in Omi. Right?
Wow.
So Omi is my homie.
Nice, man. Yeah, like I don't know if I would. I'm definitely not the same investor as you, but I did got pretty lucky on some of the AI coins. Singularity, Singularity DAO, Singularity Net, and Ali, Artificial Liquid Intelligence. I don't know if you like heard about those ones, but they were like smaller.
I the first two, yeah.
Yeah, and so like I put in money like right after Christmas, like January-ish, because and then I was like, and then I like put in more money when I like right at that initial Chat GPT craze, because I was oh, this makes sense, like. And then that was right when the mainstream media was like flooding. So there was like all the everything was stacked up against me in my mind. I was like, maybe I'm making a wrong decision. And obviously it was the right one. I didn't 10x like a lot of people did, but I did like 3 to 4x on most of it. So
yeah, I mean, I picked up I have a super in Australia. I think in America you guys have 401k. And I have we have super in Australia. And I managed to change it to self-managed, and I got it just at the end of last year. And I got 1 full Bitcoin, I got some Ethereum, and I got some other crypto, like a bunch of Cardano, and that's all done really well. I'm up like $30,000-$40,000 on that for this year so far.
Nice.
So it's helping hedge against the loss on Omi so far, but not enough.
Yeah.
But I'm really not worried about it. if it goes to zero, then we're in trouble, but it's very unlikely. The odds of that is, to me, is 0.001. So yes, it's possible, but
Yeah.
the odds of it going up is a lot higher. It'd have to
And
be like a company would have to go bankrupt, right? A company would pretty much have to go bankrupt for Omi to die.
exactly. And I mean, and then like look at both of the communities. I mean, we just talked about, how we both didn't really know each other, like not too long ago. We kind of found out about each other, and we're both been making content forever and been invested in the community. And it's like that's how big just the community is, right?
It's
And
massive, yeah.
it is massive. Like there's probably, I would say, over 600 YouTubers, like obviously a lot smaller ones too, but I would say like
Yeah,
there's at least 600 plus people top, maybe even 1,000 that
and
are at
there's
least
definitely a little divide between like the VV YouTubers and the Omi
there
YouTubers,
is.
but we're all starting to integrate now, which is good.
Yeah, like that's why I wanted to do this, right? Because I was like,
Yeah,
this is
it's
a
awesome.
good,
I love it.
yeah, it's a good collaboration. And like usually I get like a lot of like whales and people like that come on, talk about their VV stuff, but not so much on the Omi side. So it's like nice because to me, the way that I always envisioned Omi was like and I'm not trying to be offensive, but I always saw it as like the lazy way to make money because I'm like, oh, you just put your money in and now you don't have to worry about like what AF15 price is going to be next week. Like you're just concerned about like the overall, like goal of the company and like the movement of that entire, industry, right? It's not like a one by one case,
100%. That's why I do Amazon, right? So
Yeah.
Amazon, I'll give you a quick breakdown, and like I'll try and do a 1 minute breakdown of exactly what happens on Amazon. I have listings I made. I have products in China. Suppliers make them. They send it over to Amazon's warehouses. Amazon sell it to people on my listings that I made on Amazon, and then Amazon ships it out to them, and I just have to get more stock. And like so, it's all very automated, right? I spend like an hour or less a day on Amazon, and it makes me full-time income, right? And then I've also got another business which is called SEO, and SEO is getting people ranking on Google. And I also outsource a lot of that stuff, and I have clients I've had set up for a long time, and I get them ranking really well. So it's like results based, not time based. So again, I do like an hour a day of that. So I'm very lazy in the way I make money. So I'm hoping Omi works the same way. I put money in, and it just spits money back out after a few years, right? So definitely 100% agree on making money lazy is the right way of doing it, though, if you ask me.
Yeah. Well, you and I are gonna have to consult after because I feel like I'm making money in the hard way. Like, I still got my 9 to 5.
I did it. I did it for 4 years. I did the 9 to 5 for 4 years in an
Yeah.
office, and I did not enjoy that. And I also ran my own business doing computer repairs. So I had to like drive around people's houses and like just deal with their problems. Like that computer repairs is just like fixing everyone's problems. Like this is broken, that's broken, fix this. I can't get into my email. Like it was like a variety of about 2,000 different problems. Every time I went, it was different.
Oh my God.
So I did that for a number of years, and like it was paying the bills, right? But it was still a job. I just gave myself a job, so I was my own boss.
So how did you fully transition into like the Amazon? Like, was that your first like, okay, like I'm gonna be an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think Amazon and SEO went hand in hand at the same time as I was doing PC repairs. So like I guess I do a lot of things. I'm not that lazy, but I set it up like future. It's all like front based, right? Front loaded. So all the Amazon work was up front. I did 2 weeks, 3 weeks of nonstop research and trying to find my first product and work out how that works. And same with SEO, like all the work is up front. I get everything ranking and I keep it steady, and I outsource people to help keep the links going, and everything is front loaded for me. And I transitioned. It was very scary transitioning because I was the only income source for our household, right? We got kids, I got a mortgage, got a house, all this stuff. I got a Tesla loan now, a Tesla and a Tesla loan.
Beautiful.
Right? So definitely scary transition. I only transitioned about, I think it's 3 years ago, probably just before COVID, around
Wow.
and
Good timing too.
Yeah, to full time on Amazon and SEO, and yeah, it was literally right before COVID. And I didn't have to drive around anyone's house, which is good.
Wow. And I'm just thinking like that was like probably the best time because like then your whole thing was set up perfectly. So when all the masses came in, they're like, oh, I want to spend more time on it. Like you were there going like, hi. That's amazing.
So do you think I'm in the house right now? Because I'm actually in my garage. This is my garage.
Really? So
this
is
built. Yeah.
That's hilarious. Looks good, man.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I really like it. Really enjoy it.
Wow.
Yeah, I got like a little couch and stuff there. I don't know if I move the camera, it's going to wreck it.
Yeah, let's see it.
Got a little couch there. And,
wow.
TV and my little office going. And yeah, it's a nice size. It's a tiny, like it's not that wide this way, but it's quite long, so it feels big enough space.
It's amazing, man. I'm in my basement because
Oh, nice.
yeah, because my wife kicked me out of the upstairs. She's like, you know what? She's like, your investments aren't like what they used to be, Chad. She's like, you're she's like, yeah, I know where you're going.
I just go hide. I go hide in my office.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
no,
exactly. So
no.
I'm gonna have to take a consultation with you afterwards regarding
Yeah,
the Amazon stuff.
the,
I'll
the,
pay
wi- the
you.
wife's pretty good. She doesn't bother. She bother me too much about it. She trusts in me.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. Well, clearly, I mean, you're giving her results. Maybe I'm not. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. Oh, your channel's awesome, man. Like you've really grown. I think you're about to hit 8,000 subscribers,
yeah,
right?
I'm excited about that. It's funny, like in the bull run, it really like man, there was a point where I think I was like, 4,000 subscribers or something in 1.5 months, and then now like it's like if I get 3 subscribers on a video, I'm like, oh, like this is amazing.
I never got the bull run time with my channel, so I don't know what
Oh
it's going to be
yeah.
like. I'm used to this slow grind of getting like a few subscribers each day, and
Wow.
I'm gonna hit 1,000 in the next month. I think.
Yeah, that well, hey, like for anybody watching right now, like obviously go check out Jordan's channel, yeah,
But
your
you're
Twitter, and it's like yeah, and you do amazing interviews too, and you have like all the like the big players on. Like I know I was on one recently around the Ecomiverse
yeah,
where
I
we
love it.
had like Crypto Rain, we had Randy there, like I've seen Daniel Lee there, like so there's so many guys. Kyle Wilson was on. So yeah, man, I mean definitely people check out Ryan's or
Yeah,
Jordan's channel.
thank you. We should have an episode on tomorrow at 6 p.m. EST.
Yeah.
Though I actually forgot to set it up earlier. So like so far everyone's sort of been a bit busy. So we'll see if we get a few people on so we can actually make it happen. But I haven't missed we haven't missed an Around the Comiverse, and I think this is our 14th week in a row.
Wow.
So hopefully we don't have to miss this one. We get some people on.
So what happens? You go to like new, like different channels, like everybody does a YouTube video, or
We
it's all on your
were,
channel?
and I found a bunch of people were complaining that they couldn't find the videos. And
Mm,
I also put a ton of time and effort into organizing everything and also doing the thumbnails and everything. So I was like, I'll just put it on my channel. It's much easier for people to find. It's easy for me to organize. I get to control the thumbnails and the title and everything, and put the same description, so everything's really consistent. And so the branding is consistent. So we just all jump on my channel now, which obviously helps my growth as well. But yeah, I came up with the idea of the Around the Comiverse. But yeah, I was sharing it around for quite a number of weeks. But yeah, I was telling the guys that if one of them want to do a channel on another day, like the Around the Comiverse another day, that would be awesome as well. We could do another slot per week. But yeah, we've got a lot of good feedback from it. Yeah.
I know you guys have been smashing it, and like it's all like super important topics, and like it's also what I like about it is it's like week to week. So it's like okay, what happened this week? Let's chat about.
I got Reese on too on Dr. Stuff's channel. Yeah,
jealous, bro. Jealous. Yeah. That's crazy, right?
Have you interviewed Reese yet?
So Reese came on way back in the day for like it was a meme competition that actually this is a guy OG Akomi Meme Lord and my other buddy Akomi Homies set up, and we set up, and so like Reese and Trevor came on twice.
I think I saw that. Because I've been watching for a long time. So what's your VV birthday?
March 7th, but I put in money in Omi on like February 15th, 16th of 2021.
Yeah, awesome. I'm very similar to you. Around the same with Omi, and then about a month later as well, I did the VV. Very similar.
Funny, right? It's funny how that like most people all came through the coin, and that's why like I think the branding is interesting because everybody's like, oh, we're trying to get the normies in, but it's like I think the majority of people that are like interested, and again, it's just my opinion, but are like these Web3 guys, these people that want crypto and stuff like that. I just feel like that's the easier, I don't know, people to target right now, and I do think that like
it's a technologically advanced people, right? It's the people that understand tech a lot more, and so they're always innovating. They're early adopters. They understand where things are going, sort of ahead of the curve, right? Eventually, it'll go to the masses. Eventually, what is it? Some of the big stock, NASDAQ is now taking on Bitcoin.
Yes.
Bitcoin custody. That was announced, I think, today or yesterday, very, very recently. And so slowly, Bitcoin and crypto is becoming more and more mainstream. And the same thing's happening with NFTs. Like, Amazon's going to do NFTs soon. Did you hear about that?
Buddy, of course. That's huge. Like, I can't wait till that happens, right?
Yeah.
And I saw something else with like, I think it was like eBay or something, but it had like Mickey, like Disney, like them take your card. And I was like, whoa.
Could be from VV. I don't know. That'd be really cool. Imagine we get VV NFTs on eBay. That would be massive.
Oh, I definitely think that's a possibility. Like, and who knows, right? That's why maybe they're also being silent, and why a lot of these updates aren't pushed is because there's like bigger things in the pipeline that they just
Yeah,
can't like talk about yet. So they're like, yeah, we've had delays because maybe they signed a contract with
yeah,
eBay and they're
yeah.
waiting. You know what I'm trying to say?
The
Like, I
red
don't
tape,
know.
right? The red tape is massive in terms of licenses and everything,
Yeah,
as well as partnerships. Like there's always a lot of back and forth with lawyers and getting things right and getting the paperwork right, and we don't see that, right? We're like, just do everything now, right?
I
So
know.
we just have to be more patient, I think, and it could be if everything goes really, really well, and like we end up being on OpenSea, being on Amazon, being on eBay, you know, the sky's the limit for all the VV NFTs as well as the OMI token. Like there's not really a limit because we haven't seen it yet.
I totally agree, man. And especially after seeing like what some of these other projects are selling for that don't even have like big IP or like they're establishing their IP, I'm like, holy crap! Like I can't imagine what
Like
you know.
Moonbirds went crazy, right? That was like some random stuff.
Oh my God. Like some of these JPEGs that are out there, I'm like, man, I don't know how they get to the points they are. And I know it's all about community and like the artist behind it and like utility and whatever. Like I know there's a lot of that components to it, but I'm like, it just seems short-lived to me. And like that's why I love about like the big stuff like I've talked about is like it's like, it's been Disney's been around for 100 years. You know what I'm trying to
Yeah,
say? So
yeah.
it's like,
My cousin actually was sort of with a partnership with one of his friends doing like where they start a community in Discord. They get the community pumped with like a new NFT project. They generate the things and they pump it up and they like sell, right? And they make all this money. And so like it's just a simple system they use and like they make millions of dollars doing this. Obviously it's harder now in the bear market, but it's
yeah.
it's like all those different JPEGs you see, like the 10,000 generated ones, like majority of them are done the exact same way. They make the community, they hype it up, they have the basic roadmap sort of thing, white paper, whatever it is, and then they just end up they don't dump, right? They make money just from selling NFTs, so they don't even need to dump. Um,
Yeah. And there's another thing too that like I see a lot is like wash trading, and I'm not saying that this is like to any NFT project. I'm not like making any accusations, but I just see like what like it's easy for two guys at the top to be like, oh, I'll buy that off 50 ETH and just transfer it back to me, or even have a second, you know what I mean? And then they're
yeah,
like,
second
oh,
account.
new
Yeah,
top
yeah,
sale, and then all of a sudden like somebody actually then gets suckered in at like whatever, like somewhere in the middle, and then all of a sudden like then people started, you know what I mean? It's interesting. It's almost like an Instagram, right? Like if you have 10,000 followers on Instagram, you're following like 130, people will automatically follow you because they just presume that you're somebody when even if like the majority of those things are fake. Like it's just interesting, like even like bots, right? Like on Vivi, right? Like you see like an item that comes out and you might have not got it, but like because now it's been botted and is going for higher in the secondary, you're like, well, maybe there's something about it. I want a piece of it. It's just amazing how human psychology works, right?
yeah. It is, and that's what happened in January last year, right? I was going
Yeah.
nuts for all the drops because like I can't get any. They're so selling out. They've got 10 million users or something. Like
Yeah.
we're all going crazy.
2.7 million,
Yeah, I had friends and family all ask me like, "Oh, should I buy NFTs on VV?" And like, "Should I buy this? Should I buy that?" I was like, at the moment you can buy anything; it will go up, and it did at that point, right?
Right.
Then someone bought, and then eventually everything started sinking down. They're like, "Oh, it's going down." I'm like, "Yeah, bad luck." I think the hype is over at the moment,
Shit.
right? They got rid of a
Yeah.
bunch of bots and stuff, but I think that'll happen again. I think it's not. It doesn't take a lot for that to happen. And MCP seems to be a really big driver. I already have noticed a lot of people that have got MCP be like, starting to buy extra stuff. Right? They're gonna. We just need a few more thousand users, and the prices can double and triple really easily.
Oh, 100%, man. Yeah. Well, Jordan, man, that was a great convo. Appreciate you coming onto the stream, my friend, and like, showing off your OMI knowledge and like your crypto knowledge, and like it's so cool, like, hearing about the mining and like, your multiple businesses, your multiple, passive income streams. I'm not gonna lie, I'm sitting here like a little jealous, like, Jordan, teach me the ways, bro. Like, I'll be Grogu, okay? Like, and you be the Mandalorian. Like, I'll just follow you around. But
Yeah, it took a few years to learn all that stuff, right? Like I
yeah,
immersed myself. I'm sort of obsessive like that, and I think
right.
probably with your channel and how much work you put in, you're probably the same sort of personality that you just go for things, right? So you ask me anything,
Yeah.
man. I'll tell you. I'll tell you off stream. I'll tell you the secrets.
Yeah, so we'll save that for off stream or for the second episode that you and I do. Yeah.
Oh, sounds good. Sounds good. Whatever you like.
Yeah. Well, listen, man, I really appreciate you coming on. Thanks again for having me on your channel. And like I said, if you haven't subscribed to Jordan yet, all his stuff is in the description below. Go check it out. And there's probably another episode coming soon, right? For around the Akomiverse, like you said.
Yeah, it should be tomorrow, 6 p.m. EST. I haven't worked
Yeah.
out the details yet, but come check it out tomorrow. We should be there.
Yeah, amazing. All right, thanks, boss. Appreciate you coming on, man.
Thanks, Chad. I loved it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, buddy. Take care.